As I've always said, the Epstein cover-up documents, the files were never with Congress. They never needed a congressional resolution or bill or law. That was just a deflection technique by Donald Trump. The files have always resided in the executive branch run by Donald Trump and his Department of Justice and his FBI. He didn't need a congressional order to release them, just like he doesn't need an order from a federal judge to release the records either. They're always within his control. I mean, even his own former Attorney General, Bill Barr, said Pam Bondi can release those documents at any time. Well, Judge Chutkan was listening. Remember her? She presided over Donald Trump's criminal prosecution about election interference brought by Jack Smith. She's back. She just made a major ruling, summary judgment ruling, final ruling, ordering that the any and all communications between Donald Trump and Epstein be released to the public now. Right now, putting Pam Bondi a little bit on the horns of a dilemma because she doesn't want to release anything with Donald Trump's name on it. She wants to use the phony criminal investigation to block it. Not so fast, says Judge Chutkan in a case brought by Democracy Forward. And here's a clip of my show, The Intersection, where I go through these issues with you and explain them. Let's play it. So now let me turn to Judge Chutkan. Everybody knows the first chapter after much political pressure, crowds in the streets, survivors at the Capitol, survivors threatening to release the client list themselves and evidence themselves. Donald Trump slip on power, evident MAGA running away from him. People breaking away like Marjorie Taylor Greene and joining with the survivor is actually at great political risk to her. Not defending Marjorie Taylor Greene, but she is out of a job now. And all of that overwhelmingly except for one. Everybody in the House and Senate voted for a bill to have the Epstein files released. That never had to go to Congress. It still doesn't ever have to go to Congress. The documents sit in the executive branch. They always have and they always will. They're with Donald Trump. They're with his FBI. They're with his Department of Justice. He always used the House as a way to cook the books, slow down the production, stop the production. Point to Congress. I'd be transparent, but they're not letting me. Point to the courts. I'd be transparent, but they're not letting me. It's all a ruse. It's all BS. It's all Donald Trump's always had the power to unlock the door and release all the Epstein files, but he won't. So Democracy Forward, led by Skye Perryman and her lawyers, ran to court a few weeks ago, filed a suit, got assigned to Judge Chutkan, who presided over the criminal case against Donald Trump, the election interference case. And under the Freedom of Information Act, you make a demand. If it's of great public importance, you can ask for an expedited review, and if the government doesn't respond or fails to respond, or does respond, but it's invalid, a judge can order that the document sought be released. Now, they sought a subset of the Epstein files. They sought all documents because they want transparency between the FBI, the Department of Justice, its leadership, and/or Donald Trump, to talk about the Epstein files. So they're trying to get to the bottom of the cover-up, not the docs per se, the cover-up, but they also asked for all communications between Epstein and Trump to show why there was a cover-up. And after summary judgment, Judge Chutkan ruled in the last 24 hours that almost the entirety of what Democracy Forward is seeking needs to be immediately turned over to the public, including the Epstein-Trump communications. Now, we know from other reporting that the files are worse for Donald Trump than originally thought. That David Shuster reporter has said that the MAGA right wing was briefed by the Department of Justice itself, and that the takeaway was the files are worse for Donald Trump than first reported. We know that. And Judge Chutkan actually cites in her order, and all these orders that I'm going to talk about today are up on Legal AF Substack for you to review under Filings AF. The judge said, effectively, Pam Bondi, you made this of great public concern and importance, and therefore based on you flip-flopping, because in February, when the administration first got in, you said you were going to release all the files. They were sitting on your desk, and then 4 months later, you said in a close-out memo, there's nothing to see here. There's no crimes. There's no client list. We're closing the file. And then you go off and say you're opening up an active investigation. You've made this of public interest under FOIA to force their production. Let's look at Pam Bondi, because this was referred to by Judge Chutkan in her order, talking about it in a couple of different clips. one in which she states it and one in which she tries to weasel her way around it about, the file being on her desk. Let's play the clip. The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive, by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies. Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. We also know, and Judge Chutkan referred to this as a fact, which is that the Department of Justice and the FBI reviewed all the files in March led by the FBI, that by May she had briefed the president, and that he knew his name was all over the files. That's why the communication between Epstein and Trump becomes part of the FOIA records that need to be produced. Now, what's going to happen? There's going to be an appeal by the Trump administration to the D.C. Court of Appeals. Then they're going to try to take a fast track to the United States Supreme Court. I'm just not sure that the United States Supreme Court is that keen on weighing in the Epstein child sex trafficking cover-up. I mean, they didn't grant the appeal for Ghislaine Maxwell. They've had other victims that they've supported in the past. We'll have to see where the Supreme Court is, but you got to hand it to Judge Chutkan to make that ruling today. It's another avenue for us to get a hold of the Epstein-Trump communication. Welcome back, the Intersection Podcast, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Midas Touch Network. With your help, we're already in the top 50 of all podcasts on YouTube, and we're floating up the charts over on Apple and Spotify. Leave a 5-star review there on the audio versions and comments. And over on YouTube, watch. That's how it helps. Come over to Legal AF, the YouTube channel itself. Help us crash through 1 million subscribers. We're going to get there in the next 2 to 3 weeks with your help, and then come over to Legal AF Substack. And this is the way you become a Legal AF card-carrying member. So until my next report, my next podcast, my next intersection, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting, we got interviews, we got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe. Music.